Well, I wanted to talk with Utah Congressman Chris Stewart, who he himself is a veteran, and about the importance of this changes and get his reaction to them. He's on our Newsmaker line right now. Congressman, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, it's good to be with you, and I tell you, since last time we talked, I'm in a lot better mood than I was a week ago before the election.
Well, congratulations to you, by the way. I haven't had a chance to talk to you since then, Congressman. Let me ask you about the proposed restructuring of the Veterans Administration and what Bob McDonald is trying to do with it. Are you pleased with what you're hearing and seeing?
Yeah, I think he's taken some steps in the right direction, but we've still got a long way to go. And honestly, the VA has been mismanaged and it has suffered from a lack of leadership for far too long. I got to share one experience I had a few weeks ago. I was running back in D.C., running through the neighborhood in the park where I live, and a fellow passed me, which isn't unusual. A lot of people run faster than I do, but this young man had no legs. He had a double amputee just below the knees. And, I caught up with him. I wanted to speak with him and hear his story. And, of course, he was an Army veteran who had been injured in Afghanistan recently. And I asked him about, his care. And fortunately, for those real traumatic examples like that, generally they're getting really, really good care there in Walter Reed. But we've got tens of thousands of other veterans from World War II and Vietnam and Korea, and more recently, who are not getting the care that they were promised and that we owe them. And we've got a ways to go before we get that back situation where we know that they're being taken care of the way we should.
Congressman, the one thing, I don't know if you saw the 60 Minutes piece on this on Sunday. I did. The one thing that surprised me was when Bob McDonald came up and basically said, look, we have about 1,000 people within the VA who need to be fired because of their incompetence, yet I can't fire them. The process is unbelievable to go through. Why is that?
Well, it's insane. And I tell you, when I saw that he had identified these individuals and was going after them, I was jumping up and down. It's absolutely insane that someone could be protected and keep their job when they have responsibilities to provide life-giving care to people, and they can be negligent in that, and we can't do anything about it. It makes no sense at all. And I've talked with, I can't tell you how many doctors who have worked within the VA system, and they come to me with these terrible, terrible stories of nurses and other people, and not all of them, obviously. There's good people who work in the VA, but there's too many who they just simply did not care, and they would challenge these doctors. You can't do anything to me. You can't fire me. There's nothing you can do. And that makes no sense at all. And as a Congress, I want to give him every authority to fire those individuals, to be able to hold them accountable. And frankly, until he has that authority, and he can fire those individuals who have been so negligent, we'll never be able to fix this.
As well, he mentioned he needs to hire some new doctors and nurses, I think to the tune of 28,000 is what he mentioned at one point. Is Congress going to give him the money to do so, or is it better to take kind of a wait-and-see attitude, see if, in fact, some changes are working, they're the correct changes, things are being done before we would give him that amount of money to hire 28,000 new people?
Yeah, and it's exactly what you said. We want to wait and see how some of these things are implemented. But I have to tell you, I would probably never support that. I don't want to make government bigger. I want to make government smaller. And there's a better option to provide care for these veterans. And it's what the Republicans passed in July, and that was to open up the local markets. If you can't get into the VA hospital right now, well, then go to another hospital. Go to a civilian hospital or a civilian doctor. And there's no reason at all why we shouldn't be taking advantage of the civilian market rather than having dedicated, bureaucratic VA doctors and VA administrators and VA employees. Why not just go out to the market? It's far more efficient, and it's much more responsive for these veterans. It's better for them. I just don't see an argument against that being the solution.
I know he's been going around the country talking to people, getting a sense as to what's going on in the VA. Do you have a sense that things are changing? I mean, from the people you've talked to, or is it too early to tell right now?
It's too early to tell. I mean, the rules and regulations from the legislation that was passed in July were only finalized, actually, this very week, just 3 or 4 days ago. And we don't know how they have chosen to implement some of the things that we had legislatively assigned them to do. And it's going to take not just a few weeks or months. It will take, I suppose, at least a year before we're going to really know if this is getting better. But it's important that we move forward with urgency. Obviously, I'm glad that the Secretary is. but we're not finished holding our feet to the fire. This is too important, and frankly, it was too much of a mess to just say, well, let's throw a couple $1 billion at it and go about our merry way and assume it's going to be all fixed, because that's not the case if we don't hold them accountable.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Congressman. I want to change topics here for just a minute. Probably the hottest topic in Washington, as you well know right now, is what the president is going to do on amnesty and illegal immigration, and possibly using his executive authority to grant anywhere from 4 to 8 million people who are living in this country illegal amnesty. Is there a way to stop this? Later on in the show, we're going to be talking about a plan that some Republicans have now to possibly defund any of these efforts. What's your take on this? Can the Republicans stop the president from doing this?
Well, we don't know that. And I'm telling you, when it comes to defunding this effort, I am out on the tip of the spear on that. And sitting on Appropriations Committee, where we will write the legislation that funds the government for the next 9 months of this year, I absolutely would support that. And it just drives me crazy that this president assumes he has the authority to do this when he has admitted as early as 2 years ago that he doesn't have that authority. And it's not just what he's doing here. It's the fact, the unconstitutionality of it, the precedent that it sets. If this is a Republican doing this, I would feel exactly the same way. The most troubling thing to me is his arrogance in saying, well, Congress didn't fix the problem the way I wanted them to, therefore I'll do it myself. Well, there's a lot of things that are in Washington are not fixed. Social Security, unemployment, the debt that will eventually drive us into bankruptcy. None of them have been fixed, but I wouldn't suppose that it's a good idea for a president to act unilaterally to address any of those issues either. He's supposed to work with Congress, and he's refusing to do that. Well, we've got to find a way to stop him, and I think the funding may be the best vehicle to do that.
Well, Congressman, again, congratulations on your win last Tuesday, and thanks for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That's Utah Congressman Chris Stewart talking about the VA reforms and also about the immigration issue still hanging over. We don't know what the president is going to do yet, but when he does, expect a real battle.